pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Yes. Good evening. First up on this evening's list, is this Happy New Year? By the way, this is our first meeting of the new year.
Yes, it is.
Happy New Year, everybody. Item 001, appointments with the police department.
So the first item of the year, I'll ask Chief Kent to come up, make some recommendations on appointments this evening.
Thank you. We're going to have a long-time dispatcher who's going to be retiring shortly, June Conley, wonderful dispatcher. But we think we've found an excellent replacement, Dodie Feldman. She has a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in criminal justice from Northeastern University. She is also pursuing a second master's degree in strategic information analysis at Northeastern. She had a GPA of 3.82 and graduated magna cum laude. And as a grad student, she's near perfect at a 3.97. She's originally from Providence, Rhode Island. She does have experience, prior experience in dispatching with the Wellesley College Police and the Springfield Police Department. I think she'll be an excellent addition as June Conley transitions into retirement. So I would recommend that Ms. Feldman be appointed dispatcher.
Thank you, Chief. So as far as June, we'll be holding something for June when the time comes with June. And so, again, just thank you to June for her many years of service to the town of Burlington as a dispatcher. And with the recommendations of the chief, and especially since she's a Northeastern graduate, master's degree, I can live with that. So, with that, I'm hereby appoint Dodie Feldman as a police dispatcher within the Burlington Police Department and request the Board of Selectmen to waive the 15-day waiting period.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Jimmy to waive the waiting period, second from Joe. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So 500. Similar GPAs at Northeastern?
Within 50%,
Okay.
you know, I can, you know, get there. Dodie, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard, Dodie.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, welcome aboard.
And we have a second appointment tonight, Chief.
We have a police officer appointment. Before we get started on that, I was thinking on the way over here, I think this is probably the last appointment that, from my department that I'll be recommending to you. And we've appointed quite a few.
We have.
And I just want to thank you because the town administrator and I do the final interviews, and John always has great insight, and I appreciate your involvement in the process, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
The candidate tonight we have is Thomas Zarro. He's a 2013 graduate of Billerica High School and graduated in 2017 with a degree in criminology from the University of Southern Maine, where he was a 4-year varsity baseball player and was on the Dean's List from 2015 to 2017, along with being awarded the William B. Wise Scholar Athlete Award in 2015, 16, and 17. He's a recent graduate in this past November of the Lowell Police Academy, where he put himself through as a self-sponsored candidate. Thomas previously worked as an intern in the Billerica Police Department, and he has worked as a program coordinator for the Billerica Recreation Department. His father is John Zarro from Billerica, and his mother is Jean Marie Frazier from Nashua, New Hampshire. I would recommend that Thomas Zarro be appointed police officer.
Thank you, Chief. So there's nothing I compare myself to him, being a student athlete and a student scholar and a dean's list. I'm not sure what those are. But congratulations on that aspect. And was very impressed with Thomas during the interview process coming forward. Academy trained, so he's going to come in and do his field training right off the bat, something we need, right up front. So we certainly wish him the best with the department. And so, as the chief points out, this is probably my last appointment to the Burlington Police Department. So with that, I do hereby appoint Thomas Zarro as a police officer within the Burlington Police Department and request that the selectmen waive their 15-day waiting period.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Jim to waive the waiting period, second from Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, 5-0-0.
Great, congratulations, Thomas. If you want a few moments,
Congratulations.
if we can just clear the table for a few moments, though, as we do, so they can take some pictures.
Come on up and take those pictures. Tom?
Get your deputy in there.
Mother and father here, so I can write up. Brothers, all the relatives, everybody, go give the picture to a couple.
Like this, and then we'll bring the family in.
You take your hat off, Tom, to take pictures out. I know, but as the commissioner, I can overrule his, you can take the hat off to take pictures. Get some parents in there, take some more for them.
Look, hold on. Wait a minute, one more. I think they want you in the picture too, the chief.
Hey, get Doty up there.
Go over here. Tommy? TV? Oh.
It's the grandma.
Yeah,
Come on in, absolutely.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, with Jody too, yeah.
We'll go with Doty, and then we'll do you two together. Just step aside. Why don't you step over and sit down? There we go. Tommy and Doty together. Tommy, it's one more with you and Doty.
Guys, just take two steps over your average. Good.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Chief. Anything else? So the other thing off.
Yes, appreciate it.
But I don't want to turn this. I don't think that was on.
No. Thank you, Joe.
I like it. Thank you. Item 002, we are also we have some news with the building department, John.
Yes, Andy, if you want to come up front, please. Thank you. So, as the board is aware, and just to make the public aware, our building inspector, John Clancy, is retiring after over 30 years with the town of Burlington as its building inspector, and that'll be February 8th. So with that, we will have a vacancy in the building for the building inspector as the department head. So until we make a final decision at this evening, I'm going to appoint Andy Ungerson. Andy is a senior building inspector at this point and has been with the town 30 years. And so has worked with, John many years. And so I'm going to appoint Andy as interim building inspector until we finalize, our steps moving forward, so that we have, the building inspector in place, especially in that office. We need to make sure we have a department head. So with that, effective February 8th, I'm appointing Andy Ungerson as the interim building inspector for the town of Burlington, and again, request the board waive its 15-day waiting period.
Thank you. Motion by Joe to waive the waiting period, second by Jimmy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 500, kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, Andy's been a great employee for the town for many years and is very knowledgeable in the area, and I'm sure we'll have no problem in stepping in as the interim inspector at this point, so look forward to working with him. And either myself or Paul will be back to the board, in the February, March to solidify our future for that department.
Excellent.
Okay?
Congratulations, Andy.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Item 003, we're a little early, but I'm going to go ahead with it anyway. This is also an appointment to the Scholarship Fund Committee. Specifically, this is, as has been requested by town meeting, there are some changes within the structure of how the scholarship fund, specifically the scholarship that is funded by revenues by taxpayers with the checkoff program on their tax bills. Town meeting has asked us to go ahead and change how those scholarships are managed and awarded. And we're happy to comply with that request. Specifically this evening, we'll be appointing to, and I'm going to highlight from the town meeting warrant article, the scholarship committee to consist of the superintendent of schools or his designee, no fewer than 5 residents of the city, or town appointed to a 3-year term by the Board of Selectmen. Now, I believe what has to happen is the way the board will be structured is they'll have to figure out who will be the 1-year, 2-year, and 3-year appointments. I should, prior to us acting on this, thank for their hard work Lucy Damiani and Sherry Ellis, who really did a lot to try to, I believe they're the people that brought this article forward, and they did all of the homework working with the administration as to getting us to the point where we are now, which is we're basically ready to appoint some folks. We did receive 6 very strong candidates for this scholarship committee, which I think, Mike, you pointed that out at our last meeting. It seems like there is a trend towards highly qualified people that are volunteering for some important committees in town, so I know that's a source of pleasure for all of us. So specifically, the names I have, and Betty, if you could correct me if I'm wrong, that'd be great. But I have Jen or Jennifer Casas. I have Sheila Fitzpatrick, Rosalind Manazian, I hope I'm saying that correctly, William Boyven, Gina Leary, and Kent Moffett have all volunteered to help with this committee. And they have communicated that they are prepared to try to work to possibly have something in place as soon as possible, possibly to be able to do some work with the kids who are graduating this year. So I'll entertain any questions or comments that anybody might have. Otherwise, I'd be looking to get a motion to go ahead and nominate these folks. But those are the names that we have in front of us. Again, strong group. I think the idea, in my opinion, would be to nominate all 6, but I'm open to questions or comments or.
I'll make the motion, that list of, you read 5 names, correct?
6 names.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have to decide, because it said not more than 5?
It says no fewer than
No,
five.
no fewer than
so
5, okay,
yeah.
so
And I
we
thi-
can put all 6 forward.
Yeah, and I think the idea with this committee, and Sherry and Lucy agreed, I think the idea here would be, there will also be a superintendent of schools or his designee. And there are already some pretty good ideas that are being circulated on that, which would bring it to that 7th person. And we don't expect that, there'll be a ton of controversy with this group, so it's a number that we're comfortable with, I believe.
My recommendation would be to appoint all 6 of those names.
Excellent. So motion by Bob to appoint all 6, second from Joe. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? So 500. Betty, I believe you were good enough to arrange for, or Sandy was good enough to actually arrange for a meeting of these folks. So we need to notify them, and again, I think Sandy has the specific time. Lucy, it was Thursday evening? Thursday the 24th at Grandview, 7 o'clock. And the idea was to use the first on the, where we have our strategic planning meetings. And if for some reason there's an event, there is an event in the hall that evening, so they have the option of going further back to, yes. So if you could, and it's definitely the 24th, Lucy. Okay, great. If we could communicate that to them, that'd be excellent. Will you and/or Sherry be able to go and share sort of what's been the charter? I'm going to make an effort to get there as well. But again, thank you very much for your hard work on this. Yes. I thought Sherry was going to bring pom-poms and jump up and down, but I guess, okay, all right. So thank you for that, Betty. If you could let them know, that'd be great. Okay. Can we, yes, 004, is somebody from the Board of Health here? Excellent.
They are not coming this evening.
Excellent, okay. Well, I didn't mean excellent that they're not coming. What I meant was, excellent, somebody is here to, so go ahead. So this is item 004. This is also an appointment for the Board of Health. According to the Board of Health policy, we are to have a community representative for the institutional biosafety for Sarepta Therapeutics Incorporated. And we have your name, sir, and your very impressive list of credentials. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Chairman, Board. Good evening. My name is Jay Karima. I am with Sarepta Therapeutics. I am the company's environmental health and safety lead. I have been working with Christine Mathis and also Jim Harrison for help with community rep for our institutional biosafety committee. So, we are a genetic medicine company trying to move to Burlington. We have secured space over at 55 Network Drive. Really excited to be working in the town here. Feel like Burlington has a lot to offer, both our employees and also from a geographic location between 2 of our Massachusetts sites. So really appreciate the opportunity and look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Well, I can say we're happy to have you. Before we open it up to questions, could you maybe tell us a little bit about the company and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So Sarepta has actually been around for about 30 years now. Up until a couple of years ago, it was a small molecule company. We focus on rare neuromuscular disease. Up until a few years ago, it was with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is a muscle wasting disease that occurs predominantly, almost exclusively in young boys, and very, very grave disease, 100% fatality rate. So our mission really is to transform that disease. And we do have a commercial product on the market, and we also are working and performing research on future stages for our medicines, specifically in gene therapy and focusing on microdystrophin technology is the focus. So.
Excellent, thank you. Questions from the group?
And just one comment, if I might, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
certainly.
In reference to the appointment of Jim Harrison, This is not the first time that we've appointed Jim to this community representative for different companies. Jim and I served on the Board of Health many years ago together, and he's a dedicated member of the community and really quite bright, and I'm glad to see he's still involved by volunteering with the Board of Health for these kind of important issues, so I intend to support the appointment.
Yeah, he certainly seems qualified for the appointment.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments?
Just
Yes, sir.
real quick, how big of a space you gonna occupy and how many employees are coming in?
So we're projecting about 100 employees at the Network Drive facility, which I believe it's around 17,000 square feet of lab space. Should be about 100 or so cubicles or office space.
Okay, any lab work being done on site or?
Yeah, we do have a lab on the third floor of a building over there that was previously occupied by Dyax Corporation in Walshire.
I'm good. Joseph? So the general category for your company would be considered life sciences, correct?
Yep.
What is it about Burlington that makes it attractive to a life science company like yourself?
So our employees are accustomed to good amenities in the area, and we really feel like Burlington has a lot to offer with regards to that. The feel of the area, the tech park that was built, so long ago, really was appealing when we were looking for space. And geographically, we have a location in Andover, and then we're also headquartered in Cambridge, so it makes a lot of sense on that front as well.
Excellent. I think just for some background for yourself, the reason I asked the question, Mr. Tigas and Mr. Runyon are both, we're all in favor of the concept, but specifically they have taken it upon themselves to undergo the task of trying to help communicate to whomever that Burlington would like to be considered as welcoming as possible to life science companies. So, yeah, I'm glad to hear. That's kind of what I was hoping you'd say it was the Board of Selectmen that attracted you to the town, but the next best thing. No, seriously, it's something that, we are lucky in that we have a relationship with, for example, the Millipore Sigma. And, the idea here for us is that we would be in competition as a town in a global marketplace we want to be where companies like yours want to locate and be part of the community. So, again, I appreciate it. And like you said, Bob, we appreciate that we've got a high-quality person like Jim with credentials to work with companies like this. So it's all good.
I want to just say thank you too. My experience with the Board of Health and the Planning Board so far here has been fantastic. Christine Mathis, I can't say enough great things about her, and it's been a pleasure. So.
Not a surprise. Thanks very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
Christine would disagree. She thinks you could talk a lot about her and say nice things.
I don't know her that well, but I'm sure after a few more of these meetings, we can have that.
So we need to try to possibly appoint Mr. Harrison, I
I
believe.
would make that motion.
Okay, so motion from Bob to appoint,
Second.
second from Joe. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Thank you, sir.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Good night. We're early for, no, we can do this one. Boy, they're all pretty quick ones tonight, actually. National Grid moratorium. This, we have been informed, or we have seen on the news that National Grid has welcomed back to work their regular, highly trained and skilled workforce. And due to that, under consideration for us this evening would be the idea of potentially lifting the moratorium that we put in place. Questions, comments on that? And no?
I'm just glad that it's over, and why didn't that happen sooner?
Yeah. Why didn't it happen sooner? That's a question. That's a good question. But the important thing is that it's happened, and everybody can go back to work, and things can start to move forward again. And thankfully, we didn't see anything in Burlington like what has happened in other communities. So I, for one, consider us lucky for being in that situation. But any comments on the moratorium? That being said,
I make a motion that we approve lifting the moratorium that we voted.
Motion from Bob to lift the moratorium, second from Jim. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained?
So, Mr. Chairman, just for public view.
Yeah.
This is lifting the moratorium you had placed, but the town of Burlington still has times in which you still can't cut into pavement. So that doesn't lift our normal procedures during winter months, and that's where we are, especially in the cold weather. So I forget the exact dates, but we do not allow road cuts, during this time of year. So those are still in place. So even though you've lifted the moratorium, on that piece, it doesn't mean work can commence today in our roads.
Just the one we approved in September.
Exactly. So I just want to clarify that point.
So lifted, subject to typical and regular procedures by administration.
Exactly, because the selectmen have other restrictions on road cuts that you've approved. So again, this was just the, basically, undoing the vote of the moratorium you had on that particular piece.
Okay. Excellent, thank you. So that brings us almost, we're gonna wait on, are we doing 006, or has that one?
You can
been-
open it, but going to recommend you postpone, so wait till 6:35.
Why don't we go ahead and, yeah, we'll wait for the time. Why don't we-
Exactly.
We'll jump down to the next one. Why don't we go ahead and jump down to 007, regarding the parking lot construction, the approval at the parking lot construction at the Human Services Building, 61 Center Street. And that is what this diagram, and that's what the backup is. Before we get into this, should we cover, should we go with that one? Should we go in order and cover this one first, or should we cover some of the other matters that, why don't we go ahead, we'll deal with this one. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
We probably take this along with the door issue.
I agree. So why don't we go ahead and deal with the, why don't we start, we have a little time, why don't we just briefly discuss the door issue. And I hesitate to call it an issue, but there has been much conversation about access to the building over at the Human Services Building, and what doors would be open and what doors would no longer be open in response to some changes that have been made with that building. After much conversation and communication back and forth, and after consulting with staff in that building and with administration here in this building, I believe we have come to a decision where we are going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and open the door that had previously been locked to the public, and that would be and I'll certainly welcome questions or comments, but to me, this is after much consideration and after much communication. And in order to be responsive to the general public on this one, or some members of the public, we're going to go ahead and unlock that door. So do you need a vote from us to do that?
Yes, I would request that.
Okay. Did you have a question about this, Mr. McDonald?
Yes, I'm McDonald.
Come right up, Mr. McDonald.
I was here originally to speak on that door being closed, and I'm sort of
Have a seat, Arthur.
pleased that you have rescinded the closure,
Okay.
and that it's in violation of ADA to begin with. But now I'm concerned about handicap parking. You took away all the handicap parking in front of that door. I had a situation where I tried to get in, and I have two artificial knees and an artificial hip.
Which side of the building are you talking about, Mr.
Talking
McDonald?
about the side that was closed.
We will add a couple of spaces.
All right, so now, you took all the handicapped spots away from that side of the building. I'm asking you to restore them.
They're going to be put back.
And I think that would just even everything out.
Yep.
Make it easier. And I appreciate the fact that you've done that, because I thought it would be more difficult sitting here. But it's nice to see that you recognize the situation. And I just want to thank you for doing it, but I'm asking you to restore the handicap spots there.
We're going to,
Nothing else, make them all handicap.
we're going to restore the parking spaces as well.
The handicap?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
All I have.
Questions, comments further on that? So you'll need a vote from us to go ahead and do that?
I'm requesting
or
that,
do-
yes.
Okay.
Mildred Nash, town meeting member, shortest speech ever. I would like to know as of what date the change back to the handicapped accessible parking spaces would be reposted because they've been undone? And would it be all the locked doors, since that's the only building in town that has any locked doors? It wouldn't be just the Murray Wing, but the two front doors as well. And I just would like a clarification on what the date would be.
I don't know about the front door. I think they've always been locked in those front doors.
No, because the bus stop used to be there.
As far as I know, there's one open door, which is at the top of the ramp for the handicap parking.
I'll look at
I was told that. I haven't tried to get in, so I don't know. But I think
But
we
that-
need the date certain.
The buses used to, are they locked now? Yes. Oh, they used to be open.
Go open them.
Yeah. Okay.
Open everything.
Just when?
Well,
Give us a couple of days to get the communication.
Next week for the doors, and then parking spots because of weather.
Yeah.
You know, I can't guarantee exactly when
Okay.
we can get, you know, because we're in a cold spell right now. We can't put paint out there now.
Yeah.
And we're talking weather this weekend, so we got to work within reality of weather situation.
Okay.
so,
Post signs, you don't have to paint, you don't have to paint,
No.
post the signs.
Mr. Chairman,
yeah, I don't know that that's necessarily in compliance.
no, you can't do that. You
Yeah.
have to do both to be in compliant, otherwise it's an illegal space.
Yeah. So,
Chris?
Technically, by law, the paint on the ground is not enforceable. There has to be a sign present in order for it to be enforceable by the ADA.
okay. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to open the doors. That will happen. Can we say that'll be done by
Next
the end
week.
of the week?
Yes,
Can
for
we-
next week, it will be back open.
Okay, so the doors will be unlocked by the end of the week, so beginning next week, those doors will be open.
Thank you. It
Okay.
frees me up from writing my greatest resolution ever. It was going to vie with the Gettysburg Address, but if the doors are open, you'll miss it. Thank you.
Okay. Can we get that privately if we want to, Mrs. Nash? For the parking, can we work with the Disability Access Commission rather than do this here this evening? Why don't we go ahead and have some communication? Chris, can we have some communication between the Disability Access Commission and the Selectmen's Office about what we need to do for the parking and, okay,
Yes, sir.
excellent. Yes?
Thank you.
Sure.
Sherry Ellis, Town Meeting Member Precinct 3. I want to thank you for responding to the residents. The issue, or the agenda item is actually the parking lot out front of the building that you're going to be taking up next. And I was just going to suggest or recommend that in doing that, perhaps all the departments and the Disabilities Access could work together to figure out where the best places going forward for all the handicap around the building would be. So just getting everybody together on the same page and working on it that way going
Okay.
forward. Thanks.
Thank you for that suggestion. So why don't we go ahead and take up the parking lot construction?
Did we
You
vote?
need to vote.
The door yet?
Oh, so for the door, you want to vote for us for the door? So does anybody want to make a motion for the door?
I'll make the motion that we unlock the doors that are locked as soon as possible, but at least by Monday of next week. And then we'll also address with the handicap spaces with Disability Access Commission for placement of signs.
So motion from Bob,
Second.
second from Jim. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained? So, okay. So moving on to the parking lot, item 007.
So the parking lot is the new construction parking lot in the front. There are no handicap spots associated with this. You have before you the plans. Selectmen Morandi, myself, and Public Works personnel attended a planning board meeting back in September, give or take, and presented an initial concept plan. We received comments from the planning board. 5 members were there that night. They voted 5-0 to support the concept of this parking lot. So we took their comments, and so this was designed. Since then, we have a meeting in February 8th. We go before the planning board. We go before the Board of Health on the drainage issues next week, I think. February 8th before the planning board. So I'm seeking a vote from the Board of Selectmen to approve the plan of the new, these are all new spots, you know, in the front. 54 additional spots that will be added to the rest of the lot, which we've been saying for a long time that we need, you know, at this point. And so, again, this was designed by the engineering department, Tim Mazzone, and our engineers, reviewed by Tom Hayes and John Sanchez. So this is before the board for approval.
And with this, the renovation of that building and that whole area will have come full circle, I think.
That's correct. So this is, we held this from the construction project of the building, and we said we'd wait until the, you know, the building was done. There was just too much going on, and that we'd complete this as soon as the building construction was complete. And so that's why we're following through on this. We're intending of bidding this very shortly, you know, upon approval, and having construction done over the summer months, and hopefully online in the September timeframe.
Okay, excellent.
If
Any
I may,
questions?
it just
Yeah.
says, Ray, at that meeting, there was a few changes that the planning board wanted, and myself and Mr. Petron were just, whatever they wanted to make it easier for us to get this approved. So it was a long meeting, but planning board was acceptable to what we had brought in, just with a couple minor changes.
Excellent.
We also had Marge McDonald and
Yes,
Brenda
we had
Egan
Marge
there
there
that
also, yeah.
evening as department heads involved.
Yep.
Thank you, Joe. Questions, comments, further comments?
Mr. Chairman, excuse me. Actually, as John mentioned, these are parking spots. Parking has been an issue for forever up there, particularly with the addition of Grandview coming online. So these will certainly be welcome spaces there. Looking at the layout, I'm also pleased to see we're closing off one of the entrances at the far end of the school. We're going to eliminate the need for some of those do not enter signs that just sort of litter that entire site. So this looks like it'll kind of neaten things up over there and should take care of the parking issues.
Right.
For the foreseeable future.
And just as a point on that, Mike, this did go before the design review committee, you know, our internal committee, and that's why we eliminated one side, highly recommended, you know, from public safety, you know, based on what we have today. So there will be only one entrance to the site versus, you know, people not quite knowing which entrance to go in and how to maneuver through.
Would the general idea be when it is, when there might be an event at the Grandview that would be taking place at hours other than when the Human Service Building is open, is the idea that this parking area would be used for Grandview?
Yes, and as well as on weekends. So the problem with Grandview with the Saturday, Sunday, you know, daytime events.
Yeah.
During the summer, the lot is pretty full from when you're using the fields in the back. So it's a combination of a couple of different situations. The Monday to Friday daytime,
Yeah.
you know, is the Human Services Building is in full play. And then if we have a Grandview event, which we do have during the week, especially with companies renting the building for corporate, you know, type events, then parking is a problem, because Grandview only has, if I remember right, 34 slots, around that,
Sure.
which is not sufficient for that building. But then on weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays, when you've got the outdoor recreation programs going on, and you've got a major event, you know, some sort of, you know, family affair at Grandview being rented, a wedding or whatever, and 34 slots for a building that holds well over 100 people is not enough. And so this will allow for, the problem on weekends, to subside as well. So it addresses both the daytime, weekday, and the weekend situations.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions or comments on the parking lot? That being said, Joe?
I'd like to make a motion to approve parking lot construction, Human Service Building, 61 Center Street.
Motion by Joe.
Second.
Second from Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
So-
Would we say 401?
Well, if we can just maybe wait.
Okay. All right.
Get his vote in on
Yeah,
that,
okay.
on the end. So again, we'll be going to, I think it's planning board, Board of Health next Tuesday, and that's just drainage, so it's not on, the whole piece, but the planning board on February 8th, I had sent it
I'll
over
be going
to
to
the
that,
board.
too.
You'll be
Yeah.
attending, and maybe Selectman Hogan might be attending as well. So,
So the possibility is that this could be up and running by, say, September? Is that?
that's what I'm being told, is if we're not running into any, issues, and the bids go all according to, process, we're targeting for a September opening.
Just out of curiosity, is this treated on its own, or is this part of the town-wide paving that, do we typically
We
use
set
the same
aside money in this
contractor?
as part of the project.
Okay,
So, excuse me, we'll use the same we'll put it out potentially with our other projects, but the funds, and that's why we didn't want the contractor as well, so we wanted people who were familiar, and that our engineers, were involved in the project, on this versus putting it out to bid as part of the building project. That would have had complications.
Okay.
So, yes, it will potentially go out with other projects we have, but the funding we had set aside in this portion of funding, so it's not coming out of our standard parking lot funding, because it's tied to the newness of the building.
okay. So just to give everybody an opportunity to weigh in, again, we had a motion from Joe, a second from Mike in favor of this. All in favor again?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. So 500 for that one, Betty.
Thank you.
And why don't we go ahead and circle back to 006, which looks like it's a brief conversation?
Yes, so requesting the board open the hearing on the all alcohol license violation for Total Wine at 34 Cambridge Street, and continue this hearing to our meeting of February the 11th.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
So motion by Bob
Second.
to postpone until February 11th, second by Joe. So all in favor of moving to that? Aye. Opposed, abstain. Just a question, so 500 to go ahead and move to February 11th on that. Question from me, when did they open Total Wine?
So approximately, I don't remember officially, but August or September,
Okay.
Something like that, yeah.
in that time frame they opened, and these were done just prior to the holiday. So call it the sting operation, was done in November, mid-December. So within 4 months of opening, they've had a violation.
Was this the only violation on this round?
So this was the only violation on the round. I can check if you had the report. They basically attempted to address every single establishment in town. So they did attempt all of them. And the only place, we had a couple where they weren't able to process through, such as a classmate of the decoy was working, so, you can't follow through. But basically, this was the only failure
Okay.
out of all the checks.
Okay, so we'll deal with that on February 11th, and I would imagine we'll have some communication from them between now and then.
So, yes, and they'll have council and corporate present, and we'll have police chief present.
All right. Now, so moving along, do you want us to take up 008?
Please?
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
okay, I'm sorry.
no, you go ahead.
So police command contract, we have successfully negotiated the continuing contract with the police command. That police command is captains, lieutenants, and sergeants. And that contract goes from July the 1st, 2016 until June the 30th, 2019. We were in mediation, as the board is aware, for some time on that issue. They were waiting for the arbitration to come back from the police patrol at one point, and we had mediation with them. We came to a settlement recently that was signed by administration. So as the board is aware, I negotiate on your behalf based on guidelines that you give. Administration signs a memorandum of understanding with the union. It's been approved by their union. It is before the Board of Selectmen for approval on your part. This follows the contracts. Basically, it is the same as the arbitrated settlement on the financials with the police patrol, the 3 2.5s over those 3 years, which is similar to other groups over that time in town. So I'm recommending that the board approve the memorandum of understanding with police command as presented.
Do we have any questions or comments on that? So, again, this would be, as you stated, through June 30th of 2019.
Correct. We'll be going back to the table shortly.
So a whole
Somebody will.
5 months of labor harmony with,
Correct.
okay.
And just as a note, if you approve, then it goes to town meeting for ratification financially.
Okay. And that's actually, okay, so that's one of the items on here.
Yes,
So-
correct.
Okay, so specifically with regards to potential approval of the police command contract as outlined by Mr. Petrin, any questions or comments on that? No? Okay. All in favor of approving said contract? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
So 401 in favor of approving that contract. And John, thanks for your hard work on that. I know
Absolutely.
that, yeah, I know that this is, and I don't want to begin this long Terry soliloquy of every meeting we talk about how much we're going to miss you, but I know that.
Depends on which item.
Yeah, I know
Depends
that.
on who you're talking to.
Yeah.
You know what, yeah, you're right. So,
So it doesn't matter. I have no feelings, as Selectman Morandi has pointed out, so let's just, continue on.
I was, yeah. I was going to thank you for the professional approach that you take towards these negotiations.
Good thing I had two professionals with me, so that there was some professional approach, but I will say that Chief Kent and Joanne Faust, as HR Director, was in all the sessions all the way through. So it was a team of 3 from administration. And again, Chief Kent and Joanne Faust, sit at the table with me on each of these sessions, so.
And we thank the police command as well, so.
Yeah, great. I can't say enough about our police command group, as I always do. We've got a tremendous group there, who perform great service to the town of Burlington as command officers.
So 401 in favor of that one. The January 28th, so item 009, January 28th, 2019 town meeting warrant. So specifically, John and/or Betty, which items, if I could just make a check mark next to them, are we being asked to potentially approve? What is on?
So the financial articles
Okay,
are basically the ones the board would typically take votes of support for, so Articles 3 to 7.
okay. And then anything else on here that we are?
8? I think we need 8.
We need 8, okay. So what I'd like to go ahead and do, unless somebody would like to hold for discussion any of the financial articles between 3 and 7, and I'll go ahead and read them. Fund the Burlington Police Command Officers Contract. Number 4 is, do we have?
So we're not ready on number 4 yet,
Okay.
because we're still, that'll be a, I'll say last minute, a discussion the
Okay.
night of a town meeting, if we can get that contract done.
Okay. So items, so I'll read them. 3 is to fund the Burlington Police Command Officers Contract, which we've already talked about. So we don't have to vote on that one again. So items 5, which is the water fund transfer, which we've seen before. Item 6 is to replenish the reserve fund, which we've seen before and we've talked about. And item 7 is a transfer from free cash to stabilization fund. So we've already voted on 3. We're not ready for 4. So for 5, 6, and 7, can we vote on those as a group, or does somebody want to hold one for discussion?
I'm good with the group.
Okay. So regarding that group, items, financial articles 5, 6, and 7, does anybody have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we vote in Articles 5, 6, and 7.
Okay, so motion by Joe to approve 5, 6, and 7.
Second.
Second by Mike. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. So, 5-0-0 on those items. And then, for the general articles, which is the alteration of a public way, specifically at Mooney Road, could you maybe give us the Reader's Digest version of this? I mean, we have the article here. Do you need for us to read this article in its?
I can't give you Reader's Digest. I've not been involved. I think Mr. Sagarino has been in meetings.
Okay.
But this is to correct, my understanding, and basically it's to correct some of the lot lines in that area so that the corrections from past mistakes, so that the lot is available, to be a lot.
Okay.
That's the very brief Reader's Digest. I can get Paul and see if he has additional comments on this, if the board wishes.
Did you go to Catholic school in Chelsea? Is that Catholic school in Chelsea? Did you go? No. Okay.
Let me see if Paul's here.
Sure. So in the meantime, I'll go ahead and read Article 8. To see if the town will vote to, 1, transfer the care, custody, management, and control of town land, which is portions of the existing right-of-way layout on Mooney Road, said portions as shown as on the 0 Mooney Road, a modified definitive subdivision plan, which was approved by the planning board on October 17, 2018, plan prepared by Eastern Land Survey Associates Incorporated, Revision 2, dated September 5, 2018. Said plan filed at the Middlesex South Registry of Deeds as Plan 1 of 2019. Said portions, which are known as Lot X, containing 121 square feet, and Lot Y, containing 2,300 square feet, and Lot Z, 74 square feet, from the Board of Selectmen for the purposes for which such land is currently held to the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of conveyance, and subject and pursuant to general laws, Chapter 40, Section 3, Section 4, Section 15, and any other enabling law, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to release and convey all right, title, and interest held by the town as follows: Lots X and Y to the owners of the property located at 2 Mooney Road, map 31, parcel 16-0, and Lot Z to the owners of 9 Oak Street, map 31, parcel 27-0. Said conveyances on such terms and conditions, which may be nominal consideration, as the Board of Selectmen deems appropriate. And for the town to retain a 10-foot wide easement across lots X, Y, and Z for the benefit of the town. Said easement shown on the 0 Mooney Road, a modified definitive subdivision plan approved by the Planning Board on October 17, 2018. Plan prepared by Eastern Land Survey Associates Incorporated, Revision 2, dated September 5, 2018. Said plan filed at the Middlesex South Registry of Deeds as Plan 1 of 2019, or to act in a manner thereto. Everybody get that?
Paul says it's very self-explanatory.
Okay. So, with that being
So,
said.
my overview, he said, was
Yeah.
as good as he could give, so
Yeah.
that's what you're stuck with.
So with that being said, any questions or comments on this one? Seems pretty straightforward if you take it piece by piece. So if there are no questions or concerns regarding this, if somebody were to make a motion, we would entertain that motion.
I'll make that motion.
So-
Chairman, you went through all that reading. I'll be happy to make the motion to support Article 8.
Thank you, sir. So motion to approve and support by Mike.
Second.
Second from Joe. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 5-0-0 on that one. And then That is the extent of the items that you want us to take a position on and vote for.
Correct.
Okay.
Unless you see something else you wish to, but.
I do not, but I'm open to, yes, sir.
I'm curious, Article 2, the life sciences zoning amendment, and this is a planning board item. Typically, we don't involve ourselves with this, but I do see some sort of a direct correlation between our efforts, as we mentioned earlier in the meeting today, to support this type of business here in Burlington. This article, as I read it, seems to attempt to do just that by changing existing zoning to better accommodate the life sciences industry. In our backup tonight, you'll also see there is a forum this Wednesday right here at Town Hall discussing in more detail the life sciences industry, and Article number 2. They'll be on the warrant in January. I'm not sure if the board would be interested in entertaining a position on Article 2 or not.
I personally would, if somebody else would as well, then I'd be open to having us take a position on that.
So, Mr. Chairman, just a quick question.
Yeah.
That would be us supporting the change in the zoning bylaw, supporting life sciences, correct?
I think I would look to it that we are standing next to the planning board in their efforts to convey a more welcoming attitude to businesses or companies in that life science industry, yes. That's fair to say the way you said it.
Then if that's the case, I'll make the motion to support the article.
Okay. Let me just make sure nobody's uncomfortable with the idea of, it doesn't seem like there is. So motion from Jim to support, second from Mike to go ahead and support that. So we have a motion from Jim, second from Mike. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain. So 5-0-0 in favor of supporting the zoning bylaw article, life sciences amendment. All right. So, John, anything else on I don't see anything else, Betty, on our agenda, other than the usual.
No, back to
Silly
page,
area.
second side, and I think we're ready for reports.
So, let's go ahead and ask if anybody want to go first on subcommittee reports.
I'll go first.
Mr. Tigas, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just two quick things. The small cell site committee met back in December. We accomplished our first goal, which was to get a policy established that this board approved. We all agreed that our next step with regards to the committee is to look at design standards. So the hope is to have a working group or a subcommittee formed out of that group to attempt to work with design standards for future applications. The next meeting for that committee is going to be January 23rd, 2019, 4 p.m. Location is to be determined, but most likely at Grandview. Again, that's January 23rd at 4 p.m. for the small cell committee. And the second item is, this past weekend I attended a regional climate summit up at Merrimack College. It was very informative. There were about 30 other communities there from the area. Talked about numerous things with regards to renewable energy and green communities. In fact, in February, I'm looking to have representatives of the Massachusetts Green Community Initiative come before the board to give a brief presentation in hopes that Burlington will become designated as a green community in Massachusetts. In December of 2018, the state approved 30 more communities. There's a total of 240 cities and towns in Massachusetts that now carry the green community designation, and that requires us to, what that does briefly is requires us to adhere to certain, I don't want to say guidelines, but requirements. We'd have to follow certain requirements, and the benefit is not only does it improve the quality of life and the environment and reduce our energy costs, but it will also allow us to apply for certain grants as well. So more on that to come in February.
Thank you.
A lot of talk on that, yeah, green communities, yeah.
But there's 240 already, so out of 351, I think it's to me, from the presentation that I attended, that the planning board spots it, I think it's, looks like a good thing for us.
Thank you, sir. Mike, you wanna-
Sure, yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two
Thanks.
items. Very pleased to announce that bingo is back on Thursday afternoons after a 6-month hiatus. I want to thank Joe and his wife, who had been running the bingo games for many years up there, has decided to step away from that role, calling bingo. So we've gotten some volunteers, and we're splitting those duties amongst ourselves. I've been working with Ken Gordon. District Attorney Marion Ryan's office is taking a week each month to call bingo up there for us. Mr. Hosford and his wife Joy were there last week, had those duties. Rick Parker and Katie O'Connell from the Chamber of Commerce also chipping in. So I want to thank all those folks. And this will be our 3rd week at it this coming Thursday. The group gets bigger and bigger as word gets out. And they're a little abrasive, that crowd, right, Richard? I mean, if you make a mistake or God forbid you call the wrong number or something.
That is not an easy job by any stretch. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
But we're having a lot of fun, and I want to thank Richard and everyone else who's helping us out. In fact, my colleagues, if you're not busy on a Thursday and you want to hang out with me a couple hours, you're welcome to do so. Secondly, we have a little fundraiser this past weekend for the 4th of July committee. We had our friend Stan Anderson back in town to celebrate Elvis Presley's birthday, so he did a wonderful job up there entertaining the crowd. And again, I have a handful of people I just want to thank for their donations. Dave Norton down at the Liquor Cabinet, John Belmonte from a whole bunch of flowers, always there, events all around town. Gary Codwell from Arrow Paper, can't not forget to thank my wife, made a nice basket. Mike Tolopoulos from Old Town Liquors, and our friend Al Fay all helped to make the event a success. I know it's January, not a lot of people are thinking about 4th of July this time of year, but we start early. So again, thanks to everybody who helped out.
Can't forget to mention Lisa, or better not forget to mention
not
Lisa?
forget.
Okay, all right, just checking. So thank you for that. Bob?
I don't have a report, but I would just like to ask the public about, we like to think we're better in Burlington than everybody else, and, we've kind of lived up to that in a lot of ways. It came to my attention that there was some verbal bullying going on in reference to one of the town meeting warrants on the checkout bags, and, we really don't need to act like that. And there was some discouraging things said, and I would just hope that people would think twice before they do that kind of thing. We really are better here in Burlington than a lot of other places, and we should live up to that and not down to it.
Thank you, very well said. Joseph, anything?
My turn?
Yes, sir.
Just real quick, the hunting season is officially over here in Burlington. They harvested 5 does and 2 bucks out of the landlocked forest. There was no incidents. There was no phone calls. There was no controversy between bike riders and path walkers and hunters and everything else. Everything went very smoothly for I believe it's the 5th year now. So
Has it been that long already?
I think so, yeah. So I just want to thank all the hunters, and I want to thank the residents for allowing this to go on, and it will be back next year.
Thanks, Joe, and we hope that you'll take some credit for how smoothly things were run down there, because that's pretty much, a lot of that has to do with how you run that and how expectations that you have of the folks that hunt over there are very high, And that's how you get results such as this, is you expect a lot of the people that use it, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I think because of Joe, we all know a lot more about the season and what goes on down there, and, you know, we're all a little bit smart, not just us, but I mean, community in general, on what goes on and why.
And we still have not been treated to venison steaks at a meeting, as far as I know.
That's true.
Okay.
There's a bear that we have some,
Yeah,
could get some steaks.
just wanted to throw that out there. So, for the chairman's report, Betty, you were nice enough to share with us a letter that we received late in the day today from the planning board, so not something that's a regular agenda item, but I did want to read it. So, addressed to the Board of Selectmen was a letter from the planning board that is brief enough that I can just go ahead and read. Dear Mr. Chairman, at the planning board meeting of January 3rd, 2019, the planning board voted to support looking into acquisition of the property at 17 Sears Street. The board notes that the property built in 1910 has historical significance to the town and includes the oldest standing chicken coop as referenced by historian John Goff in the Historical Inventory of Burlington. The site is located in the town center, is also within the campus of the town hall, directly adjacent to the town hall parking lot to the rear. A portion of the site could be utilized for needed additional parking and storage of vehicles within the campus. It is reported that there is interest by a commercial daycare for which we have general concerns about traffic and impacts to the neighborhood. We look forward to the continued discussion with the Board of Selectmen on this matter. So basically, in a nutshell, there's a daycare business that wants to purchase the house in a residential neighborhood across the street from the library, again, adjacent to the rear parking lot. I guess the size of the lot makes it appealing to this daycare facility, and because there is a educational tie-in with what the daycare does from a business standpoint, evidently they are eligible to circumvent the zoning rules that would typically disallow a business like this from locating in that area. I don't know that plans by this business or this company are necessarily out there, but what has been conveyed is that their intent, should they acquire this property, would be to demolish the house, build a daycare building on that site, and operate as such. So clearly, the planning board has some concerns. I know a lot of the neighbors in that area have some concerns. I know that, speaking for myself, and if anybody cares to agree, they're welcome to, I will participate in continued discussion with the planning board on this matter. I think it's something that we should look into. I'd welcome anybody that wants to volunteer to participate in those discussions, and we can discuss that offline if anybody's interested in that. But I know for me specifically, I'm interested in some conversation on this.
If we could, Mr. Chairman, if we could get either someone from the planning or our staff to give us a summary of the procedural things that would be part of this process.
Okay.
Because it's not as easy as just walking up and giving a check down payment on it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that have to be done, and
Yeah,
we should at least know what those are.
I agree. I would imagine there'd be a fair amount of discussion that would have to happen one way or the other. Any other questions or comments on that? Okay.
Does Mr. Petron have anything to say about what we would, like, basically what we would have to do if this was to be some sort of a miracle thought of buying this piece of property?
Well, you'd have to put out an RFP, for property. So the town, has to, develop a plan as to why a piece of property, and then has to put out an RFP and allow anybody to submit for that type of land. This is, we don't have an immediate need, highlighted for this. So it's not as if we've said we're looking to purchase, like when we did with Clark and Reed, when we said we're looking to, put on a town facility there, and we highlighted that piece of property, but we still had to do, a process to get there. So we'd have to work with council and develop what that process is. But again, the Board of Selectmen can't just say, we're gonna buy this property and it happens. There's a long procedure to it, including town, in the end, you need town meeting vote to obtain a 2/3 vote of town meeting to obtain land.
I think in the interest, first of all, thank you for that. In the interest, again, speaking only for myself, in the interest for taking steps towards preservation of a neighborhood and to prevent what, in my opinion, would be really not a good fit for that location, I'll go ahead and I'll participate in discussions with the planning board and afterwards, anybody else that wants to participate will be welcome to do so, and we can talk about that subsequent to this meeting, so. Any other questions or comments?
My only comment on that is the housing, the houses that are there, or the house that's there, it's beautiful. The family who's in there has done an extraordinary job, and it just would be an absolute shame. And, I know that has nothing to do with the sale of real estate, but it would be an absolute shame for all the work and how beautiful that house looks to tear it down.
Yeah.
So if we bought the house, the house would stay there, we're gonna tear it down and use it as a parking lot.
I don't think,
That's
I
what
don't,
I'm saying. I'm just trying to make sense, that's all,
Yeah.
in my head.
I don't think that was I wasn't at the planning board meeting, but I believe what was discussed would be the idea of a portion of the property being used for parking, but I'm open to whatever they want to talk about.
Absolutely.
I agree with Bob's sentiment. I don't know that we do, if you look at what we did with Grandview, and certainly not the same thing, but the preservation efforts at Grandview have really paid off to the point where we've really got a beacon of our history located not far from this building. And again, I don't expect that this is not necessarily a preservation effort on the level of that, but sort of in the same conversation, I guess. So, conversation can't hurt. Any other questions, comments? No? You look overwhelmed by emotion, John, right now.
As always, thank
Okay.
God the meeting's over.
So, that being
Not
said, you're certainly welcome to go ahead and weigh in at this point with the town administrator's report. Do you have
So
anything?
just a couple of minor things. I'd just like to welcome back Selectman Morandi after his scare from the last meeting. The affordable housing units are still being worked on next door over the property, going what was known as the Building 19.
The shops?
Property of shops at Simon's.
Yes.
So we are still working the issue of how many units, so that may be coming for the board, since affordable housing falls under jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen through our housing coordinator. This weekend might have a little bit of snow out there, the latest forecast, so let's be careful. We've not had much snow to maneuver in yet this season, fortunately, just one good storm before Thanksgiving. And finally, yesterday, Pats looked great, so hopefully they continue that into next weekend, and we can have a Super Bowl, which we're all rooting for a home favorite.
I feel like after so many years of being kicked in the stomach by the Red Sox, I find it so difficult to just assume that we're going to win. I was legitimately nervous about that game yesterday, and I found myself at the end saying they proved me wrong again. So I think I'm just beaten down by so many years of being kicked in the stomach back before the year 2000. Anyway.
1, 4, and 4,
Which we all remember, yeah. So, good point, and we'll see what happens on Sunday. We have the late game on
Yes.
Sunday, it sounds like, so.
6:40.
Yes. All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Joe to adjourn. Second by Mike. All in favor? Aye. Meeting